Ladies and gentlemen, ATDF Everything in That Shelf presentation. You're now rocking with TDF Everything. Spoiled Rotten.
Spoiler alert.
Welcome back, everybody.
Hey.
It's me, Daniel,
And this is Ben
on Spoiled Rotten.
on that shelf.
Boom. We are going through the MCU, and we have hit Captain America, the Winter Soldier.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, what a great time. I remember the first time I saw it, I was like, wow, like this is the closest they'll ever get to the Dark Knight level superhero movie.
Yeah.
And I still have that opinion after watching it again for this. I'm not even saying like, oh, they should be trying to do Dark Knight, but I just was like, I really like the Dark Knight, and this has a similar tone to it. There's a similar seriousness and sense for action, and I appreciate it.
And I appreciate the whole like holding the system accountable for itself, like the people like looking inwards, like, hey, it's a system that's doing this, it's part of this, it's part of this. It's kind of the same thing, right? To your point, like Gary Oldman being like, this is
right. You shouldn't be surveying people.
Yeah, we should be doing this. We should be doing this to prevent crime. And like, what to what point does that go to? And I really like the dialogue that Nick Fury has there. And like, I don't take the world the way I want it to be. I take the world as it is. And that's such a great line to me, especially with how he talks about the elevator and his grandfather and all that kind of stuff, and how times changed.
Right.
Great stuff here.
He loved people, but he didn't trust them.
Yeah.
I think one thing I really appreciated this time around, I probably did the first time, was specifically how they obviously Steve is a man out of, like, a fish out of water, but they're not really like playing that for laughs. It's just like it's actually used in an interesting way of him being like, wait, so like all this time has passed and like this is what the government's doing, like that's fucked.
Yeah.
Like, it helps you understand why he's like, no, I'm not a part of this. Like I can't believe that this is where things have gotten to.
Yeah. And to that very, very good point. I mean, like, even the idea of the first mission that he runs with Black Widow to get Batroc and all that kind of stuff. I realize like why he takes such offense to that mission is the idea, like his perception of a mission is still World War II. We're all going in together. We're all like, everyone's equal. Like we're like, it's a Howling Commandos. That like he's still used to that mindset, that mentality where he's like, yeah, everyone. There's no secrecy. There's no sliminess. But then here in this one, he's running the mission. He's under the same belief, under the same assumption. But then what Nick Fury does here is like, it's called compartmentalization, which is like such a newer age way of being like, yeah, we're running a mission. It's still this, but this person has this task and we're just delegating and all this kind of stuff. It's like this new age corporate level of thinking into the military that like Steve really doesn't understand. And like, that is,
well, I wouldn't say it's new. I would say it's still the sliminess of most big powers, specifically in this case, American. I think the reason World War II works for so many people because it's like there's a very clear bad guy, the Nazis.
Yes.
Versus
I think the lines are being blurred.
Versus most wars where you're like, yes, there's like two sides to it, and people feel how they feel about it, and sometimes there's ulterior motives. And I'm not even saying that's divorced from World War II. I'm just saying, when you think about it at a macro level, you just like, get rid of the Nazis.
Yeah, it's a very, very
and that was
clear way of thinking for World War II.
Steve's
simplistic
entree into that war, and that's why I think that's why it doesn't work for him. Not necessarily like, oh, like you guys are doing different things. It was just like, I told you, like I went into this saying I don't like bullies, and it seems like I'm working for the bullies now.
Yeah.
Like I think so it didn't matter to him like, oh, they're German, so they have to be bad. It was like, no, you're a bully. I have to stop you.
Yes.
And now he's like, oh, I see. I'm working for the bullies.
Yeah, he was fully against oppression, like against mistreatment of anyone in general. It didn't matter anything. And that's why I love this character of Steve. It's just because like he's not like pro America. He's just like, I don't like bullies. And
Mhm.
whether or not like I got the Captain America title got put on me for the exact reasons that it did in the comics, and then like put him in the new age setting, and it's such a wildly interesting thing to watch his morals go up against like how like the new age morals are, in the sense where it's like, how much can we PR like convince ourselves that we're doing the right thing here?
Mhm.
It's a wildly interesting story filled with so much moral discussion. I love it. It's great.
So yeah, I feel like we've mentioned Nick Fury a bunch of times. I really like Nick Fury in this movie. I
Yes.
feel like it's the first time that you feel like, oh, like they actually care about making him a character now.
He's not the guy in the background who's like, see, I pulled your team together, and like
Mhm.
comes in for a speech or two. This
Yeah,
like
he's not just doing quips.
Yeah, he's doing so much here, and it's one of my favorite like things about Nick Fury is like the way he approached Steve in his own like apartment building and all that kind of stuff. Like that's one of those things where it's like really like, no, they're showing you like the level of complexity that his character actually is. And I like that they're kind of tying it together with Robert Redford's character too. It's like, hey, we used to do this like in like all like back in the day and all that kind of stuff, trying to play on the Steve and Bucky kind of relationship a little bit, in that sense where it's like, I have an old friend too that's kind of like different from who I used to know.
Except for that Nick Fury is not willing to let his old friend I can't even say corrupt him, because clearly Nick Fury is compromised, but I feel like Nick Fury has a goal and he's not going to let his old friend distract him from that goal.
Correct.
Versus, as I think we've said before, the interesting thing about a character like Steve in the MCU is, yeah, you can't really kill him, but you can see his struggle to remain human.
Yes.
In many ways throughout this movie. Like throughout this movie, he keeps getting asked, like, well, what makes you happy? And he's like, I don't know. Like, I don't think that's a thing. But also his connection to Bucky is like, yeah, everything goes out the window. Like you bring up Bucky and he's just like, maybe I will just tank this mission then, because I don't want to hurt Bucky.
Yeah, and even toward like a final scene where he's willing to give up his life to prove to him, is like, hey, I'd rather die than to not have you recognize who I am and history that we have together. I don't want to live in that world. Like, that's crazy to me. How far he's willing to go for Bucky and all that kind of stuff. But also, like, my question to you is, and I always ask this question: is it directly Bucky, or do you think he's latching on to the last remaining?
No, it's Bucky.
Thing
That's
that
like the
anchors to
person
that
that he's
time.
been friends with since he was kids.
Right, but I mean, like, does that grow more because he's like, okay, you're the only one that actually knew me back then. Like, you know how like Steve keeps saying very, very depressing things throughout the whole movie, and gets having like a lot of depressing things happen to him, right?
Well,
like the idea of
but like I guess why I'm saying it's clearly Bucky is because he still has, in this movie, Peggy's still alive, so it's not like he has nobody that he can talk to.
Yeah,
yes,
but
she goes
even
in and out, but like that was his love interest. That's the person he loves in a heterosexual way. Like, he's got two connections to the past.
Yes.
So
and one that's fading rapidly, and one that's re-emerging. And
I'm answering your question. Then I think it's Bucky. Is what I'm saying.
Fair enough.
I don't really think it's that much of a debate. I think it's clear that like they've set up that they already had the till the end of the line thing going before this time jump. Yeah. So I don't know, like, unless you saw something else, because I'm
just trying to see, like, this time around I tried to see it as if there was more in that, of being like, hey, I'm trying to anchor myself, my attachment to my worldview to Bucky in that situation. But at the same time, it's not like there was just glimpses of Bucky still being there when he like flinched or didn't hold the where he held back and didn't go for the kill blow or whatever. And kind of like I like the moment where he's like, "Why did you call me that? Who was that?" and all that kind of stuff. But it was weird that he actually talked in that moment where he's like, "Who's that?" I found, anyways.
You said world like tied his worldview to Bucky. What did you mean by that?
Well, like what I mean by that is Bucky represents that era that he came from, where the way he saw things was the way other people saw things too, and there's comfort in that, right? There's comfort in having people share your worldview, and whether
I
or
actually
not
don't think. I think the first movie shows that he didn't really share the same view as everybody in his time.
right,
He was
but
an
he shared
outcast
it
even back
with
then.
Bucky though. But he shared it with Bucky though, and
I think Bucky thought he was crazy. I think they were that's what I'm
That is
saying. I
also
think they're actually friends, and
Yes, they
that
are.
Bucky doesn't necessarily. I think he won Bucky over to his side near the end when he said, "Hey, let's cheer for Captain America." But I don't actually think that like that's the thing about Steve. If not in the comics, in the MCU, he's constantly at odds with wherever he is.
Yeah.
So I don't think he's actually tying anything but an
Hmm.
affection for a friend to Bucky, as opposed to
enough.
like mapping some kind of worldview onto him.
Yeah. That was me being like, is he trying to latch onto a simpler time where he didn't have like all this homework to catch up on, like where everyone's like, you have to watch this, you have to do this, this is all you need to know about like the last X amount of years you've been frozen. Like this is what is important to that. Like it's very interesting to watch that. But like, it's just whether or not he's like tied to that time where he's like he could have it was home for him. I don't know. But that was just me projecting, me thinking about that from that perspective. Because obviously, when you rewatch these movies, I want to see if there's something new that it gives me, and that I kind of had that thought this time around, but I want to see if that was something that you would pick up on as well. But yeah, no, I think I was just projecting there for sure. It was just definitely his love for Bucky.
Yeah, I think he just loves Bucky. I don't. Bucky's there for them. They have a connection because yeah, Bucky's family to him, obviously. Like when they're coming home from his mom's funeral, isn't that what's happening? That's the flashback in this movie, right?
Yes.
And in that sense, you wouldn't like, yes, you could be like, yeah, my family has the same values as me, but I also think when you've got chosen family like that, it's less because we have the same values and more just we have a deeper connection than just we like the same things.
Yeah, for sure.
So I think that's what that is, and I it's a through line I like throughout that, like he will constantly just like stop he'll be stopped in his tracks when he sees Bucky or hears about Bucky.
Yeah, he just snaps out of everything that he's doing, and just like he'll take like hits and like giant whatever, like things will swing at him and he'll like just take the hit because he's just that caught off guard. Those are genuinely great moments whenever that happens.
I also loved Black Widow in this movie. I think Avengers did a better job of using her, and then this was like, oh, now they know how to use Black Widow. Like, I forgot how almost antagonistic they become in this movie. Like, yeah, they do the niceties of like, oh, like you should date this person, but like when it comes down to it, like he genuinely does not trust her. No. And like when he pulls her into the room, like he's angry, and I can see her like obviously Black Widow's great with mind manipulation, so she's never gonna be like, oh, look, flustered by that, but like you could tell she's just like, fuck you, like why would I have to tell you anything?
Yeah.
And I think that is a great use of some storylines from Black Widow in the comics in this cinematic universe of like, well, is she a good guy? Is she not? And obviously we know that they're landing on yes, she is. But I like that this movie is like, yeah, the Avengers was kind of like, let's get together because we need to. And now it's like, how do you actually like work together now that you've
now that you've done like a big mission together, and you're like, okay, it kind of makes sense for us to stick together. Like, how do you work together? Like, what are the personality conflicts and all that kind of stuff?
Mhm.
Especially when Captain America is supposed to be the leader of the group. At least it like on paper,
Well, I
like
think that's what that specifically is what he was upset about with
yeah,
Fury. He's like, how am I supposed to lead if everyone else has got their own mission?
correct. Yeah, and that's a valid point. But
Yeah, I
to Nick
really,
Fury's point, I mean, the mission still got pulled off exactly like it was supposed to go. So
well, yeah. I mean, this is, I think what's good about this movie is Fury, Cap, and Black Widow all start to really trust each other.
yes,
That is a good win in a movie where it's like, oh shit, like Shield just fell. I'm again trying to put myself in the mindset of back then when like we had the TV show and everything, and Shield was such a big deal. And
oh,
it's
you
like,
mean
wow,
Agents of Shield, right?
yeah, and it's just like, oh shit, like this whole thing crumbled. Like they just got rid
Yeah.
of such a staple in this
I remember
universe.
that. Yeah, I
But, like-
remember when we like had a small discussion off screen where we were like, "Does this mean Agents of Shield got canceled? Like, what the hell
But it's
just
still
happened?"
good. It still went. But yeah, I think yeah, but the win is more like, okay, now these three trust each other,
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
which is a win. I mean, it's a
True.
small victory in this end, but it's like, all right, like I guess they tightened the circle now. It's like
Yeah.
it's a much tighter circle and a lot harder to be infiltrated now.
It's also like a nice reset for everyone in the sense where it's like Steve can trust us all, and we're building this from the ground up. And to Nick Fury's paranoia and all that kind of stuff, it's like, hey, and I like what Black Widow said at the end. It's like, hey, you were selling intelligence to us for like ages. Like, well, it was false intelligence, so I don't think you had any to begin with. I was like, that's so great. That wasn't the exact wording. She said it way better than that. My paraphrasing was awful, but like that was great. The logic. It was like, well, it was all fake. So did you have any information to begin with?
Yeah.
Good point.
I think, yeah, I thought that, I guess that's what I think. That's what I mean by it's the closest to the Dark Knight is it's, while I do think a lot of the movies I like from MCU have deeper character work than people give it credit for, I feel like this one's a lot more on the surface of like what's happening with these three characters. And I genuinely like the addition of Falcon. I'm always bummed out when he's so like eager to be like, I'm just like him but worse. I'm like, all right, come on, give yourself some
Yeah,
credit. Like,
yeah.
I just do what he does, but I'm slower. Or like, oh, don't worry, I'll just do whatever you say. I'm like, nah, not
Yeah.
the best, but I also like him as a character.
Yeah, because I didn't get the sense where I'm like, that's what he would normally say in his everyday. Like, I wouldn't catch him saying stuff like that at a bar. Like, if he ever like lost a game of darts, I wouldn't say like, oh yeah, like I do what he does. I just get half the points. I wouldn't see him saying that. Like, already submitting into like a lesser than role when he's got so much of his own shit going on. But like the way they tell that war story, it seems like, hey, I used to have a partner too, like kind of like playing up that cop aspect of like,
Mhm.
I used to have a partner, but now I ride solo because I lost my partner for like both Steve and for Falcon.
Sam, yeah.
Sam, yeah. So I keep forgetting Sam. I always want to call him Captain America now. So like for Steve and Sam, like them both having like, we both lost our partners. Like, hey, let's team up together, kind of like
Yeah.
thing going on that they were doing here was kind of weird because it was like, but Sam had been doing so well by himself. And when I say doing well, it's just like, does he want a partner? Maybe. But like the idea is that he's still in a position where he's leading and helping and mentoring other people. It's not like he's like, oh, I need help desperately. So
I do think
kind of
it's different though. He is
very
helping.
different, yeah.
I think it's different when you're like helping people through like VA initiatives
Right.
versus do you want to be a superhero? I do think that's
Right.
those are two completely different worlds. And
They're
if
completely
you are,
different,
and if you
but
are,
yeah.
if you're seeing it that way, then yes, obviously you would defer to Captain America. You wouldn't be like,
Right.
we're equals.
Mhm.
I
but
just
he's
don't think it
thriving
needs
in
to be
his own world.
vocalized. I just
Yeah.
don't I think it's clear to anyone watching. It doesn't need to be vocalized by him.
Mhm.
Like, oh, I'm just a weaker version of him. Like, it's like, yeah, we
Yeah.
know because you haven't been doing superhero stuff. Like,
Yeah.
you'll get
And
there.
you
though.
don't have super soldier
Yeah,
serum.
like you don't
and
have to highlight it. Like it's
Yeah.
but
It's not
I
something
st-
that's genuine to the character, I feel. It's just like it's a weird thing.
I
agree
think it's
every time
genuine
it
to what they
happens.
want to do with the character. They wanted
Okay.
it to be like, oh, he just wants to be the sidekick. Because even when he shows up again in Age of Ultron, which I loved seeing him in,
Yeah.
it was just like, oh no, like I don't want to actually like go fight Ultron. I'm just here to help you do your thing. Like,
Yeah.
and
yeah.
then the idea is he elevates to like, oh, now he's just accepted, oh, I'm actually a superhero, I'm on the Avengers now by the
Yeah.
end of the movie. But
Yeah.
I think that is what they wanted to do with this character. I just think
Mm.
it's clear that he wouldn't consider himself an equal in this situation when you're with people who've been doing this shit for like as long as he's concerned, as far as he's concerned, forever.
Right.
Versus like being like, yeah, I'm just here for like, it's like, yeah, you don't need to say that. You can see that you're not going to be as comfortable as them doing this stuff, and that you
Yeah.
would be following their lead.
Yeah.
And but I
if
do think that
we're like thinking you're at the same level, we're expecting your character to die. Like, like if you're like, yeah, I'm Captain America too. I'm his buddy. I'm his best friend. I'm gonna fight crime, and like you're gonna get yourself killed, and you're gonna make him feel guilty about it. That's the plot device that you serve. But that's why I'm glad it's just like, okay, as much as like those self-depreciating jokes are not fun for us to hear, it just does reassure the audience. I'm like, okay, your character's sticking around. That's cool. I like that.
And I do think he's actually like, if you were talking about like mapping your worldview to someone, like Sam is the one that actually has
Yes
his worldview, and they're not from the same time frame.
Oh, very much so. That's why
so that is his connection to like what he thinks he lost.
100%.
Sam, because you can talk to him about that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
Whereas I don't
100%.
think, if all things being equal, I don't think, like if Bucky wasn't the Winter Soldier, I don't think they would be talking about that aspect of life. War. They would just be like reminiscing about when they were kids.
Yeah, because like the thing that I think Steve sees in Bucky is that Bucky's like that childhood friend, right? They come from the same place and all that kind of stuff, but they don't necessarily fight for the same thing, in the sense where I think
they didn't until
I think in what Steve sees in Sam with the VA meeting and all that kind of stuff, he's like, no, you're fighting a different kind of fight right now because your PTSD or trauma. We don't know how long his two deployments, how long he'd been back from his two deployments and all that kind of stuff.
Mm-hmm.
But the idea of like, Steve sees Sam as someone that does like will not put up with bullying either, but like maybe Bucky might not fight it the same way that Sam would. Like Sam's fighting oppression and all that kind of stuff, and he sees what he's doing, and he's fighting the little guy in this movie, and he just keeps building up. So I'm like, it's really, really cool that Steve sees that, like, yeah, I see how you're gonna fight for the same things that I'm gonna fight for. So there's that connection between him and Sam. I really like that in this movie, how he just sees it right away.
Yeah, they have a good time together. On your left. What a great callback.
The on your left is a great joke. I love that throwback.
Within this movie and then in Endgame, but I love it. It's great. It really got me when at the end of the movie he said it in this movie, and then it got me in Endgame. I was like, what a perfect line.
It's a great line.
Yeah. But yeah, I think who else is in this? Yeah, I guess Alexander Pierce, Robert Redford. He's good. I never thought he was phoning in, but this time watching it, I'm like, oh look, he's in it. Like he's invested in this.
Yeah, he's having fun.
He even broke his retirement to come back for Endgame. So like,
I
know he probably, like, some grandson told him, don't be an idiot, do a Marvel movie, but like it doesn't come off like that. It comes off like he was just like, yeah, like I'm into this Alexander Pierce role.
Yeah, because I know like one other actor, I think like Pierce Brosnan took like a role or something like that, because it's like his
Oh,
grandson was
so
saying.
many people.
So
have
many
that same
people
story,
were, yeah, have that same story. Well, you better take this, my grandson. But yeah, whatever. But it is good fun. Yeah, he's great in this movie. You know, like I like what he does in this. He doesn't need to do much to be that bad, but like it's good to see Robert Redford in an evil role every now and then. It's kind of like I like him evil. It's kind of
I especially when he's like feeling out Steve. Like I think watching at the time, I'm like, I think he always knows like Steve's gonna be a problem. I'm gonna get rid of him. But I like when he's like, uh, someone killed my friend, and I will. Anyone who gets in the way of me finding out who it is gonna pay. Like anyone, and I'm like, good for you, Alex. You tell Steve, even though we know, like, I guess. I think it's obvious it's him, but I think at least the second time watching it, you're like, that's still a nice. It was a well delivered line because it works even if you know that he did it. Because I feel like he's just putting him on notice, like, I'll kill you. I just hope you know that. Like,
yeah,
just stay.
That's how I
like stay out of the way. I will kill you.
That's how I felt like that line to be like, this is a corporate level insult in the sense, or a corporate level threat in the sense where it's just like, I'm not telling you what I would do to you. I'm telling you what I would do to anyone. And that includes you without saying that includes you, which is like such a cool way of doing it. And it was perfectly delivered for the person he is, like a military man that worked through an organization and all that kind of stuff. He would be very corporate and all that. So like that line to me was like a great, like for Steve to pick up on that, to be like, hey, I will take you down if I have to as well. That was kind of like, that caught me off guard for him to pick that up. But like, I just think that Steve picks up the fact that like, I don't like your energy here, bro. Like something's off about this, and I don't like it.
Yeah, I don't think he ever liked him,
it.
which works for the movie.
Yeah,
but
I don't fully trust it. It's fun to see Emily Van Camp's character in this, from where she started to where we end up seeing her in Madripoor and all that kind of stuff. In Falcon.
I think I'm just kind of like, they really had no plan for her.
Yeah,
it's very clear they had no plan. Like, or if they did, they abandoned it almost immediately.
I agree. I think the snap that whether the snap, they're like, oh, if we had a plan, then this would have screwed it up. So we just got to do whatever we want with it. So that was one of the funny things. Is like, I watched this movie temporarily forgetting about the whole snap ordeal and what that did to the world governments, and how like she was forgiven or not forgiven post snap and like Endgame and all that kind of stuff when they were declared like terrorists after Civil War and all that crap. Like I forgot all that stuff. And in my mind, for a brief minute, I'm like, oh, that CIA scene, is she in deep cover in Madripoor? I'm like, no, that's just ridiculous. None of that happened. That's stupid, Ben. Get out of your head. She just was a CIA trainee. That was it. Not deep cover. This is not a Departed Infernal Affair situation where we have someone in deep cover.
That has not happened yet.
That has not happened here.
No, she's still a good guy at that point.
Yeah. And we're assuming that she's on their side. She's not on their side. We don't know what she's actually doing right now. We have to find out when,
Oh, I always assumed that she was on Cap's side. That was the whole point of her character.
No, I mean like where she's at with like Falcon and Winter Soldier, or Captain America Winter Soldier series, or because I'm specifically referencing that.
Oh, I just wanted to talk about this movie, but yeah.
No, I mean like I was saying like that CIA scene that she's in at the end of the movie here. I'm thinking, oh my god, what if she's in deep cover there? And I'm just like, no, I'm being an idiot. I'm projecting way ahead. I know. That doesn't make sense.
Yeah, it's a nice kernel of an idea, but yeah, it's kind of like, well, we didn't. But really
you're right. This really does show that they really had no plan for her whatsoever, because it's like, oh, Steve will kiss her, then forget about her. And like, I'm like, Steve's not the ghosting type. Like, what's going on with that? But
well, yeah, at the end of Civil War, that's the whole point, is he's got to go away. Yeah. He kisses her right before it's like, we're gonna have to leave now.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think who else is in this movie? Oh yeah, a scene I really loved the first time when I saw it in theaters, and then continued to like in this, is when they see Zola in the computer. it felt like, oh, they're like really embracing the comic book aspect of this. They're not
Yeah.
like just the whole idea that he's like, oh, I was just biding my time and now you're at it, like the like and I'm not saying, oh, what cool and smart wordplay. It was just like, yeah, this sounds like a comic book villain, like telling you their master plan and like saying cheesy lines, like, and I thought it was effective. I really liked when he, because yeah, like when he's like, oh, I'm not a recording, I'm alive, and I'm talking to you right now. I really liked that sequence. I think it's really cool.
Yeah, I agree. I thought the dialogue added to the comic book aspect of this. It made it so much more comedic. It's like, I've been waiting this whole time for you. And I'm like, you're an AI in a computer. You had to say that. You weren't going anywhere. You don't have Ultron level like engagement with society. Like you were just stuck there. You were probably thinking, like, Zola was probably thinking as an AI bot, okay, what's the coolest thing I could say to someone once they unlock me? And that was what he landed at. Like, that's what I was thinking of. Like, that's what makes that so comic booky, is the idea that that dialogue was delivered right there, when the reality is like, oh, you're an AI that didn't get turned on for over 50 years. And you're going to say that first. That's okay. Hilarious. Whatever.
Yeah. I enjoy that scene. I like how, because I still feel like at this point they weren't really committed to like comic accurate stuff. Like obviously in Phase 4 they've been very like, here's the suit, you know, from the comics.
Yeah, they care a bit more about it.
But this felt like, all right, like we're doing like actual comic book stuff now. That's cool. I like it.
Yeah, I mean, so to clarify, do you say that position in the Captain America series, knowing that the Captain America series is the least comic booky of all of them from a writing standpoint and not a visual standpoint? Like, I don't know. Like, is that kind of what you mean by that?
No, I just mean that moment is really cool, and like, oh, here's the villain doing his master plan.
Gotcha. Yeah, like the Doctor, like the Bond, like evil villain, like, oh, you're gonna monologue before you press the button. That's what you're gonna do. Okay, cool.
Yeah. That's what I mean, because I think they all get comic booky at some point, and obviously Captain America is the franchise that we, or whatever, the like mini franchise we get Civil War in, which is like, let's bring in all the characters. So it's not that I don't think that, and this one, even by virtue of having Falcon, Black Widow, Nick Fury all having like significant roles as opposed to just, oh, he just showed up, like makes it feel like a comic book where it's like, yeah, like people just join in. You don't have to be like, it's just Captain America because that's who's in the title. It can be like, no, other people can show up as well because we live in this comic book universe.
Yeah, it's great because it's like, yeah, it's Captain America's story, but here are the other characters involved and they drop in and out. Cool. Awesome. I love it. It's the best.
Yeah, I really like it. I don't think I caught it the first time, but like when they're showing Steve the new helicarriers and they're like, yeah, like we fixed the propulsors, and they're like, he's like, oh, did Tony do that? And it's like, yeah, he had some up close. I'm like, oh, right, because he got stuck in Avengers. I like that callback. But it was after I saw it for the first time that I was like, oh, I get it now. I see what they did there. That's nice. I just liked that it was working within the stuff we already knew and telling what felt like a very distinct story.
Yeah, it was also building off things too, like the Easter eggs that were clearly referencing more MCU stuff. And I think at some point one character said, "What if Stephen Strange did something like what?" Like, I'm like,
yes, it was listing the targets, and
he's listing the targets, but I'm like, but Stephen Strange isn't Doctor Strange yet. He's still,
but that was their point. Their point was, this is Project Insight. It knows if someone's going to be a problem,
right? That's
so that was their point.
Genuinely weird that they would drop the Stephen Strange thing that early. Like, what problem would he have been being the world's best surgeon, cardiac surgeon? Like,
no, I don't think you're hearing me. What I'm saying is, they know if someone will become a threat. So it's not just about like, what are they doing now? It is, this is an algorithm that knows Stephen Strange will become Sorcerer Supreme.
Right.
So that was the point of mentioning him.
Yeah, no, I get that. It was just like, I don't know if that was so. It was such a big thing to drop in the grand.
But they didn't
scheme
just
so
drop it in
early.
that scene.
Right.
That they'd been building up what Project Insight was and saying that it's predictive, which is exactly why Steve was so against it.
Mm,
And also Nick Fury was trying
Mhm.
to do stuff to push it off and like make sure they didn't do it, because neither of them agreed with trying to predict what people will do.
mhm, mhm.
And then
Um,
in that moment, he says specifically a name that lets people know, oh, they are predicting them, because we haven't even
Right.
seen Stephen Strange yet.
Right.
He lists a bunch of people we already know and then says
Yeah.
Stephen Strange.
Yeah, it's a bit jarring when Sitwell says that, because it's like, okay, but Stephen Strange hasn't been established here. We know, I guess that means that that's their way of communicating to us at that time. Like, yeah, you're gonna get Doctor Strange. Chill, don't worry about it. But like, it's
Yeah,
just
it works on two levels.
Yeah, it
It's
works on a
letting you
few
know
different-
he's coming, but also lets you know like that it's not just a prediction of like
Yeah,
Sam Wilson, who like
Right.
is starting now, but he could get better. It's saying
Yeah.
like people who haven't even shown signs yet,
Mhm.
we already know that they will do something.
and also people that are genuinely considered by society to be good, in the sense where he's an award-winning surgeon. Like, why would we go after him, kind of thing? Yeah, the algorithm predicts him too, so we would go after him. I think the one cool thing I liked about that algorithm scene, that whole breakdown, is like, what I realized was that it's kind of like a mini, and coming from the Russos, this was very, very appropriate too. It's kind of like a mini Thanos argument, where Thanos is like giving out his logic of like 50% world's resources are limited, that it's fair, it's equitable, it's all this kind of stuff. This one, where Robert Redford's character goes like, hey, would you sacrifice a few million for like all these other like millions of people, for them to have safety and security and all that kind of stuff? They're already presenting these kind of Thanos level arguments of
Mhm.
like, would you trade X amount for this? Would you do this for this? And like, could you justify killing or genocide of like in mass murder for the sake of something else, not even recognizing that that's not a permanent solution, that's just a temporary one? Because what if new babies are born that this algorithm catches? Like, are you going to kill a baby? What's the degree?
I think
like,
that's the point. Yeah, that is
Yeah.
the point.
and then that's what I love about this. It's just like, when evil's trying to argue and rationalize, it's like, yeah, but you stop your logic right to a degree. It's like you're failing to acknowledge this as a temporary solution that allows you to keep your level of power or oppression in that universe, so you can justify killing people more, to be like, yeah, it's for the sake of good. And it's kind of like,
I don't
it
always
really-
I don't actually think that's someone failing to realize. I think it's people omitting stuff so that, as you said, they can stay in
Right.
power.
Right. Yes. So, did I say failing to recognize? Yeah,
Yeah.
because your wording was much, much better than mine.
Yeah,
That
I
they're
think
omitting that from their argument to
Yeah.
try to be manipulative to get good people on their side. It's like, hey, you're like, people
I
need to
think
remember this
maybe
one part.
Thanos can be listed as someone who failed to realize.
This
but I
is
don't-
the same
'cause it-
thing, very much so.
I think he might have failed to realize, because it did seem like he was like, yeah, I'm done. I killed the gem, or sorry, I got rid of the Infinity Stones. I'm out. I'm just gonna go farm. Versus Pierce, who knows what he's doing and knows
Yes.
that this is carte blanche to just keep killing whoever he needs to kill so he can stay in
Correct.
power.
Correct.
So I do think they're different in that sense.
Right. So you think that Thanos was dedicated to his cause and then just gave up the power afterwards? So there was that. Okay, I see what you're saying. I see what you're saying. Like, he's just using the excuse to stay. Oh yeah, I'm going to kill anyone I want.
Mhm.
Because I can.
If they threaten
manipulate
my
this
power, I can kill them.
Correct.
And I can list it. I can say it as well. Like this is they're going to cause problems, so we need to get rid of them.
Yeah.
But
Yeah, this is even
so I do.
crazier too,
I saw
because
what you're saying, because it is the
Yeah.
same writing team, same
Yeah.
directors.
they're setting that
um,
stage up for like
But I do think
these
it's
moral
different.
questions, and I think that's really, really good.
I think it's different. I think what this is highlighting is how people in power continue to
Yeah, justify their horrible
what their actions so that they stay in power, and it's never
correct.
for the greater good in that
Mhm.
sense, versus Thanos, who I know they think they did like a hero's journey with him, but I'm like, he's just a bad guy who
Yeah.
is charismatic. Like I don't think that like it kind of worries me sometimes when they talk about what they did with him, because I'm like, he's not as exactly
Yeah.
what you said. Like, no, he's not right. Like, it's not
Yeah.
like a good idea.
Yeah, because I mean, like the what if episodes fundamentally prove that, because Star Lord figured out a different way of solving Thanos' issue, his overall thing, just by like talking about it. But even then, the reality ends up being okay. So if Thanos is that worried about the world's resources being limited, you can either double the resources or make the resources unlimited. Either way, you have the power to solve the issue without malice and killing people. That was the point of like you chose malice, you chose to hurt people as opposed to solving people's problems or really understanding what the problem is and all that kind of stuff, right?
Yeah.
You have one solution and you are obsessed with it, you ran with it, you just kept going. But there are like Star-Lord T'Challa just fundamentally proves that there are multiple solutions there.
Yeah. But so I do, yeah. So I think it's different in this case.
It's very different. And I guess what I'm saying there more than anything else is I applaud how the Russos are able to use these characters really and set the stage up for them to be able to talk about moral issues and stuff like that.
Yeah.
Like they do it so well to the point where even when the Russos aren't even involved with the character of Vision anymore, you still get that ship of Theseus discussion in WandaVision, which is so like true to his character, but like I don't think I've really seen that level of moral discussion within an MCU film that wasn't touched by the Russos the same way. You know what I mean? It's kind of great that they kind of set that.
I think Black
up,
Panther has a lot of stuff about morality and what do you do when you've got resources versus.
That's true too. Yeah. Very true.
As I said, I think the MCU actually has a lot of good stuff like that people don't give it credit for.
That is very true.
Yeah,
just because it's behind the guise of a comic book movie, people don't give it enough credit. But hey, everyone forgets that in Greece and all that kind of stuff, this is basically what the stories about Hercules were is at that time. It's just to be able to tell stories and teach lessons through those stories and characters, right?
Mm-hmm.
That's what we're doing. It's a more modern way of doing it. That's all.
Yeah,
it's good.
It's there's some good stuff there. What else happens in the? I guess we haven't talked about Winter Soldier at all.
Yeah.
I
will say
they keep hinting that he's. I don't mean relationship because I know that's in the comics, but they keep hinting about his past with Natasha, and I'm like, I would like to see that more. Like, because even in Civil War, when he's strangling her, she's like, at least act like you remember me. Like she's kind of like insulted that he's just blindly like going after her.
Yeah.
But I think my favorite Winter Soldier stuff is his showdown with Black Widow. Like all the tricks she has to like kind of like when she leaves her audio so that he goes to that and she can get the drop on him.
That like whole fight is awesome. Yeah, but yeah, that's great. The cell phone thing to really trick him.
Yeah, all of it. I was really into that. I guess that leads into him and Steve fighting with the knife tricks that he does. But like, for some reason, I was more like, I'm more interested in Winter Soldier and Natasha. I mean, I obviously like Bucky and Steve, but there was something about like Winter Soldier as presented in this movie versus Steve that I was just like, whatever. Like before I knew where they were going, because I obviously know that he'll turn around at some point. I was just like, I was still like, yeah, just get to the part where they're friends. I'm not that interested.
Don't make us work for it.
well, because they're not talking for most of it, right? Like it's the movie, and I'm not trying to say like how come they didn't like surprise you. Like, if you're us, you know who the Winter Soldier is. It's not a secret who it is. So that's what I said. That's kind of why I started with the other stuff I liked about the movie, is that there's enough going on for me to know they're not trying to hang it on. And then when you find out who the Winter Soldier is, it's gonna blow your mind, because
Yeah,
really
the
what it
movie's
is.
not banked on one like shock moment.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, really, the movie's banking on, if anything, it's like, and now we're gonna topple Shield. Like
Yes.
you wouldn't expect that going into the movie that they're gonna.
I would no. When that happened, I was like, "Oh shit, that
Yeah,
was crazy."
but like so that's when like there was just something interesting about like how she thought of Winter Soldier, and she's like, yeah, some people think he's a ghost, but I know he's real. He shot through me to get his mark.
Yeah.
I really like that scene too, though. When she's like, I can't
yeah.
wear a bathing suit anymore. He's like, yeah, I bet you look real bad in them now.
Yeah, but that's terrible. Like,
Yeah.
like, oh god, like the way they wrote the feministic aspects of her character are terrible. It's like, oh, I got a gunshot wound, so I can't wear a bikini anymore. I'm
Oh,
like,
I don't. That's not what she was saying. I didn't.
oh, she didn't say
way
that.
at all.
I thought she did say that, and you're like,
No,
"Well,
I don't
shut up."
think that's what she was saying. I think she
Okay.
was again trying to deflect with humor, and she said, "And I can't."
Oh yeah, she's
Where
definitely.
that is why you have Steve retort with, "Oh yeah, I bet you look real bad in them now," because he's acknowledging, "I know you're just bullshitting right now. Like, get to the
That's
like."
fair.
Their back and forth is, you can trust me to just be yourself around me. That's Steve
Yes.
trying to reach it. And she's obviously not being herself, because no,
Yeah,
she
take down
doesn't
your
care
masks
about
and all that kind of stuff.
she
You don't
doesn't
have
care
to be a
about wearing
spy
a
with me.
bathing suit.
Yeah, don't wear your spy mask with me.
Yeah.
I love. Yeah, I like that a lot. That she keeps having those stories about the Winter Soldier and how she's interacted. To me, it's very interesting because it kind of is that theme with Black Widow in the MCU is like they were willing to like give her so much backstory told only through dialogue with the Budapest thing and now this and a lot of stuff like, oh yeah, I have this past, I have this past, I have this past, and you know, like I guess we get to finally see what that past looks like in Black Widow. But like
Some of it.
took us a long time. Some of it, yeah, for sure. But like, I don't know, her past is, I guess, like her moral dilemma in this movie was like, imagine like leaving the KGB to try to like clean your hands, and then you're working for the same kind of people again. And it, you know, I really like that moment for her. Like that's when she took off her mask, like you said, in front of Steve, and I think that was a great moment.
Yeah, the Black Widow stuff is really strong in this, and I'm not saying like they should do a spin-off where they explore Black Widow and Winter Soldier. It was just that it was just interesting to me. That was what interested me about Winter Soldier as presented in this as the assassin. Up until that point, I was just like, I'm more interested in like, because Steve has no connection to Winter Soldier in that sense. He only knows Bucky. He missed all that stuff that Winter Soldier did. Yep. So it was more interesting to me. And again, I'm not saying like I wish they showed more. It was just more like I was actually like engaged with, oh, this is someone who actually knows what Winter Soldier was doing. She was around for some of it.
Yeah,
like that's interesting. I would like.
Yeah,
I like that idea.
Yeah, and because of the
she has a different
past,
view of
you're
him.
like, what did she work with him on a mission or two or something like that?
Well, I guess she just never was his target, but she has seen him work, and she got in between him and his target, so he shot through her.
Like that's kind of why I was like, with all those dialogues, I'm like, did they work together at some point and all this kind of stuff? And it's just like that would make sense that he wouldn't know her because of the mind wipes and all that kind of stuff that they show you within the movie. Everything would make sense. And yeah, those little moments that she has where it's like, oh, you remember me? It's kind of funny. Yeah.
And I really liked when they were trying to get away from the Hydra agents in the mall.
Yeah.
I feel like people make fun of that scene.
The kiss me scene? Yeah.
No, just the general idea of like, oh, they think they can hide just by wearing a baseball hat. But I'm like,
yeah, the Marvel, the Marvel. I'm undercover disguise. So like,
to me, it's like, more embarrassing that he does that at an exhibit where his face is everywhere.
100%. That to me is like
people aren't thinking they're going to see him. Right? So like it makes more sense to me in a mall where you're not expecting to see him. But if you're in a place where your face is everywhere, wearing the hat is gonna I mean, he's lucky that kid wasn't like, oh my god, mom, look who it is.
Yeah, and even if everyone was like, oh, it's Captain America, it's not like anyone would have hurt him. They would have been like, oh, let's sign you out, like sign autographs, please, and all this. That's what he would.
Yeah, I'm
like,
assuming
I get
he went
wanted
there.
A private moment, but like it's not like he was at danger. He just wanted privacy. That's all. Which he's entitled to.
Yeah,
I'm not saying he's not, but I'm like, you're not going to get privacy when you're at your own exhibit though. Like
Yeah.
it's like that's not
That's
gonna
the
happen.
prime time someone's gonna be bothering you.
Yeah. It's not
Uh,
like you're doing one of those things where you're pretending to be a Bell Wax Museum figurine and you're having fun on like YouTube. You're just going to your own exhibit.
Yeah,
I mean, I get that.
but
Make
I liked
yourself
how
at
she
home.
walked him through how to actually be covert. Like, hey,
Yeah.
walk, don't run.
Mhm.
Public displays of affection make people uncomfortable.
Yep.
And I always think about them like, yeah, it's true. Like, why I would never want to be caught staring at someone kissing.
Mhm. I do that all the time to get people to stop looking at me. No, I'm joking. I loved every aspect of that covertness and in the mall scene, but you're right. There's something very, very uniquely special about that bridge bus scene and just her and him like fighting the Winter Soldier and like getting out of that situation. That's such a great scene because I know exactly what you're talking about with the Natasha versus Winter Soldier specifically. And I think it's just like, okay, this is like awesome because like she's putting out all her amazing spy combat skills out, and Winter Soldier
Because she's actually scared of him.
Yeah, she's
Like
scared
she's
of
like,
him,
oh no,
legit
this guy could
afraid.
get me. Like,
Yeah,
if
and then
he wanted
like,
to.
and you never see her in that position. You never see her scared, like ever. You're like, okay, you fake scared to be in control of the situation, but this is a situation where like.
Yeah,
reading her
like she
face,
knows she
was
can't
not
talk
in
him out
control.
of something.
Yeah, she can't do anything. Like she's like, this is a killer that just kills. That's it.
Yeah.
There's no way she can use her like beauty to wow him.
Well, I
for
wouldn't even
a
say
minute.
beauty. Like I think she's very good at talking people into giving her what she needs without using
Right, but I mean,
specific-
earlier in this movie, she does use her beauty once to be like, "Hey," and then just like smiles off this guy on the boat, and then the guy's like caught off guard, like, "Hey, I'm supposed to be guarding this thing," and then just like punches him off the thing, and then just propels
Oh,
down.
I
and
don't
kills him.
remember that. Yeah, okay. Fair enough.
It's just like a brief moment where she smiles and like flirts with him, and then she catches him off guard, then kicks him over. That's it. So it's like she
Oh,
does.
okay. I
use
think I
that,
saw
but
that
it's
as more like her mocking him, like as opposed to
not- sure,
like
but
as in like
yeah.
got you. Like more like
yeah,
he turns around, sees her, and she's like, "Yeah, got you." And then
yeah, sure, but I mean,
that's-
I don't think
I didn't see that
there's-
as her like, now this is my plan. I'm gonna
Right.
use my feminine wiles to catch
Right.
him off guard.
But I mean, the plan was to shock him and then take him out. But
Again,
like,
as I said, I
if he
think it was
caught
more
off-
showing
yeah.
off. I don't think
Yeah,
it
if
was
he
like
was
this
caught
is a
off guard
tactical.
by her amazing new balayaged hair, then I mean, great. But like the point was, like, she still caught him off guard with her looks to some degree because like they wouldn't be
Yeah, I
expecting
guess
her-
that's just the difference. I'm looking at it as the fact that she was that close to him, she already caught him off. Like she already had the drop
Yes.
on him. It's not
whether or not it
it's
was
not her
related
looks
to her
that got
looks
her there.
specifically. Yes,
Yeah.
I agree with that.
Yeah.
But it I'm pretty sure it may have added another dimension to it. It's like, oh damn, did you just get that haircut? Boom, got kicked off the thing, whatever. But like in this, like, and what I'm saying is like she doesn't have any potential to do anything like that with him. She's legit scared. It's the first time you see it, and then she pulls out all the stops, and the fact that like he's a super soldier too. We don't know that yet, but like going back after the fact, knowing that he's got some version of super soldier serum in him, fighting Black Widow, who does not and is just a spy. Granted, a Black Widow trained spy, it's still like one of the like this is a fight that could go very, very wrong, and it does build that suspense. It's not like you're right. Captain America fighting the Winter Soldier, where Captain America is wearing plot armor, where it's like, yeah, nothing can happen to you except for maybe a couple of cuts and bruises. That's about it. Nothing serious.
Well, I mean, what I would say is before he knows it's Bucky, but that fight ends with him knowing it's Bucky, which is
yes,
why I don't think it's plot armor. I think that's the whole point of this movie or the franchise in general is what becomes of someone who knows they can't really die. They're not going to age. None of that's going to happen. It's all these things that actually make sure that he holds on to his humanity, like having a friend like Bucky, having a friend like Sam, but also just like, like what motivates you after knowing that like, okay, I'm unthawed, but I'm not really going to go anywhere.
And your
so that fight, so
like
then,
specimen.
and again, that's why it's more interesting to me to have the connection between Winter Soldier and Natasha. Once it's clear, like, oh, that's Bucky. Yeah, I am worried for Steve every time he goes up against him because it's
Yes.
more like, oh, what's he gonna do that throws everything off?
Mhm.
But yeah, I think, yeah, I mean, I'm sure people could see it as plot armor, but to me, it's more like the whole idea is he's impenetrable until Bucky shows up.
Yeah,
And
'cause
so
it's-
once he knows it's Bucky, it's like, oh shit, okay.
yeah, because literally, like everything he does, he's taking the shield, deflecting bullets here. Like Bucky is the first person that really significantly shoots him, right? Like the bullet goes through his like torso and his abdomen area, and it's like a pretty big
I think he
hit.
got shot in the first movie.
Does he?
Yeah, I think when he first shows up. Yeah.
Mm.
But
Yeah, I can't remember.
but
if
this
he
is
gets
what this
shot
is
and
what I
goes
mean.
off
Like
a railing or something.
the fact that it's Bucky
Yeah.
is the point. But I think what the moment you're talking about is before he knows it's Bucky, so it doesn't feel as impactful. But it's more like once it's Bucky, you're like, oh, this guy might just let himself get riddled with bullets if it
Yeah.
means not
Yeah.
hurting Bucky again.
Mhm. Yeah, he will 100% nonsensically die
Yeah.
for Bucky, even though it's not fully Bucky right now. Like
Yes.
he will let Bucky kill. Like it made no sense. It's like if you cared, it stands to reason that you would try more of an effort to capture Bucky and try to like fix him. But he's like, no, like I'm with you to the end of the line. I'm dropping my shield. I'm literally like, you can kill me, punch me out, like, oh, like you can kill me right now. And
Yeah.
it's so nonsensical. It's crazy how much he loves him.
Yeah.
crazy.
And I agree with you. It's nonsensical, but I like that it is because it's, again, I keep coming back to it, but it's like, what does he actually want in life? It's like, does he want his dance with Peggy? Does he want to keep fighting? And I think the only clear answer throughout the movies is he wants Bucky to be okay.
He wants Bucky
That's
to be
the, that's the only answer that's in all three of those
Yeah.
Captain America movies is he is clear on that. If he's not clear on anything else, he's
Mhm.
clear on that. And so I like that he does have this nonsensical thing that he's so attached to,
Yeah.
which is the well-being of Bucky.
Yeah. Because for a character that seems so perfect in all these other regards, you need a flaw. You
Mhm.
need something that makes him human. And this makes him so human because I think as an audience, personally myself, I know there's certain people in my life that I would do the most ridiculously stupid things for if they were ever like in danger of being hurt, just to prevent them from being hurt or whatever
Mhm.
it is. So I get what it's like to be like, I love someone so much
Yeah.
that I would put my life on the line for them and all that kind of stuff. I get that. And this movie does such a good job of being like unsuccessfully, he's not enthused by anything until he finds out his best friend is still alive. And then now I have a reason to live. Like now I'm going for something. It's like
I don't know
that's
about
part-
a reason to live, but he's got a passion for something now.
well
which
that
is-
yeah, not reason.
he's
I think
definitely
reason
going
got
to-
conflated into
he
what
was
I was
definitely
saying.
going to die for that.
But yeah, like a spark is what I meant.
Yes,
Like
yeah.
he had definitely had a spark, something lit up in him. It's like, oh, there's something here for me in this world now, and it's a different like air in him.
Yeah, he's got newfound purpose.
Yeah, he's got new energy or whatever it might be. But yeah, newfound purpose. Great way of putting it.
Yeah, I don't remember anybody else in this movie.
Not much.
I like the
that-
Batroc fight actually. I do
Batroc
really
fight.
like that.
I-
movie, personally.
I will say in this movie, probably this is my favorite movie in the MCU for the hand-to-hand fight combat. So Batroc fight is incredible. The only thing I hate about it is like, oh, that's how he knocks out Batroc, is this weird like somersault kick thing that doesn't really make sense. Sure, I mean like whatever. But that's me just critiquing fights. But again, that Winter Soldier versus Natasha and Captain America fight on that like pedestrian area, that is just such an awesome scene. Like the cuts, the edits, everything about that, the transitions from one punch to another, it just told such a great story. And then whenever I see the Winter Soldier like knife like trick stuff that he does, I'm blown away by it because it's great to watch that one like edited polished thing, but then you watch like the behind the scenes one shot of what that fight looked like and you're just blown away by how fast it is, and then the editing just makes it it slows it down so much so that you can actually see what's happening. And it's crazy because when you watch, like I said, a behind the scenes footage of them just both fighting on the streets and that choreographed, it's one of the most impressive things I've ever seen in the MCU for fight choreography. I feel it's awesome.
Good stuff. I
Mhm.
like it. Oh yeah, the post credit scenes is well, there's the Strucker thing with the twins. I genuinely forgot that happened. It's
Yeah.
just like I was like, should I even watch these post credits? So I looked up what they were. I'm like, oh yeah, I forgot about that.
Yeah.
And
I did
then
not stick around for the post credits.
yeah,
for that.
they introduce Wanda and Pietro.
Yeah, because this is the Ultron setup, right?
Yes.
Yep.
Yes, that's
The Ultron
they
setup.
were
That's right.
one movie away from Ultron at that point.
Yeah.
But yeah, I guess I mean, I don't know. It's good to see them. I don't care though. I was just like Strucker was a non-entity, and
At that point, I think
but it was
if we
cool.
go
I think
back
it
to
was
the
cool to be like,
episode
oh
when we
wow, they're
first-
committing to showing us the twins.
Yeah, I feel like if we go back to the episode when we did originally record that, we would have been more confused with like, so how are they not mutants, but they are mutants?
Well, this is the first time we've ever
characters?
talked about it.
Yeah, but like, you know what I mean? It's like, I'm pretty sure if we went back to it, we would have probably whatever. But like, yeah, it was.
Well, no, I mean, I knew ahead of time. They were like, they can't be called mutants. So
Well,
they're
yeah,
not.
no, everyone knew that they couldn't be called mutants, but I was just more curious about like what were they going to do?
They were
then?
just called enhanced.
Yeah,
They were just
and
trying to
that's
make
why
it
I was
seem
like,
like, oh, the Mind Stone brought it out of them.
yeah, and it just, yeah, having revisiting that in WandaVision is kind of cool. It's really, really cool.
Yeah, now that they can have mutants,
Yeah.
I'm glad they were able to retcon that.
Yeah.
At least for one. I mean, I'm assuming the same goes for Pietro, but for
Yeah.
Wanda being like,
Yeah.
Maybe it made them more present, but I think she had that stuff before the
Yeah.
What's it called, Hydra testing.
Yeah, because what did they use? Like, were they allowed to use the word mutated, their DNA?
No, they were just called
What-
enhanced.
Yeah, but like they weren't allowed to be called mutants, but like anything that was like their DNA evolved or changed, or like, would that have been allowed or no? I guess that would have been very, very, very contract
I don't
detailed.
know how to answer it any other way. They were just called enhanced.
Fair enough.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm sure someone listening might have an answer for you, but for me, I just thought they were called enhanced.
Yeah. I mean, yeah, it's kind of like we had to like forgive the movie for what it was chained back to do. It's like, yeah, we knew they couldn't say this, but they're getting the characters, and that's all that really matters. Cool.
Yeah. That's pretty much how I felt.
Yep.
And then the second one was now Bucky's in the exhibit.
Yep.
So we can assume he will now know who Steve is for
And he
real.
learns the truth about everything. That must be such a weird way of learning about your own history, right? It's like, wait, I'm
Yeah.
a national hero. Like, people celebrate me, but like, I don't remember any of that. That must be so crazy.
Yep. It's I think it's what's good about Falcon and the Winter Soldier, the show, that
Yeah.
they actually let you explore what it's like to be Bucky.
Yep. I
And no,
agree.
that's not like it's like specifically talking about like, oh, I don't remember this. It's just like you see how stressful and upsetting his life can be.
Yeah, because I like the idea of like, even in that series, they're like that connecting point that Sam had with Steve. That whole thing of like, oh, we're finished our run, we're gonna have that little chat, and then him immediately going like, it's too soft, right? And he's like, what do you mean? He's like, the bed. It feels like you're sick. Like, they have that connection, and then
Mhm.
for that to be visually shown, like Bucky's sleeping on the floor of his apartment, wherever it is, in the first episode and all that kind of stuff. And then like later on, you see him sleeping on the couch
Mhm.
with Sam. And it's just like that nice little progression there set up by the Russos in that one little bit of dialogue with Sam.
Again, I want to give credit to the writers, Marcus and McFeely.
Yeah.
the-
Oh, okay. Fair enough.
yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay. That's very, very true. The Marcus McFeely. Yeah, we'll give him credit there. But like, it's
Well,
such
I
a
would give them
great
credit for a lot of stuff. They did a lot of the movies, and
fair.
obviously
I don't know
based-
where the divisions are, but like, I just know that typically these things like, oh, directed by these people, and there's like usually a lot more. The lines get blurred there through interviews and all that kind of stuff. At least for me, anyways. But yeah, the those writing points for these characters being replicated throughout the whole MCU is such a great moment. Like to your point, on your left, when I heard that over the comms in Endgame, tears, just like tears immediately, and like happiness,
yeah, it was
and
great.
then Avengers Assemble finally. It was great. Such a good moment.
Yeah, I think that's it for the Winter Soldier.
That's it.
It's a
Except
great
for the
movie.
rating.
Yeah, no, I
Oh,
was yeah, I think
yeah.
you're right. Let's do that.
Yeah.
Hold on. Let me just distract people with talking before we do that. Yeah, let's rate it. Let's
All
do
right.
that.
All right. Am I
I'm gonna
going
give it a
first?
10. I'm gonna give it a 10.
You're doing 10? Yeah, I'm
Yeah.
doing 9.5. I don't know how this movie could be better by any means at all, but like I don't think a 10 movie exists. I don't know. But I just feel like 9.5. That's what my gut's telling me today.
Interesting.
It's a terrible, terrible theory. Like it's terrible.
I agree with
it's
you on
not
that.
good.
That's
Yeah, it's not
I don't-
good.
I don't
but-
like when teachers do it. I don't like when critics do it.
I agree.
If
I
you
agree.
if you don't have any complaints, that's a very good sign that it might be a 10.
It might be a 10. You're right. This is 9.5.
Unless yeah.
Yeah.
But yeah.
I mean, because it consistently lands on whenever we rank the MCU and whenever we rank the like this consistently ends up as one of the top ones up there, if not the top.
Mhm.
So I mean, like in all fairness, I might as well just like knock that down and put this as a 10 too, because like everything about this, you're right. This is the first time that they treat Nick Fury and Black Widow as
yeah.
their own actual characters, and like do so much, and then the groundwork that they lay and the complexity and all those things, like they're still taking the fish out of water thing really, because well actually this is the first time we see Steve really genuinely as fish out of water. The first time
the end
it's
of
like,
the
okay,
first Avenger, I think, is the most fish out of water.
the first
he feels.
the first
Yeah.
Avenger, yeah, you're right, but
but
like
this
within
one-
the solo movie, yeah, for sure, like this is,
And I guess
do it
they have
really well.
jokes in the Avengers about like, oh, I get that reference, or I don't
Yeah.
know what's going on. But like,
I understand.
yeah, this one I think they used fish out of water effectively because it
Very, very well.
serves as a counterpoint to what's going on, and
Yeah.
it's used to make him more
Yeah.
serious.
Yeah, and as just a side thing, but the idea that like, oh, there's a corrupt system that exists in our government. We should not reform it. We should just destroy it and build it back up from the beginning is what the conclusion of this movie is, and I'm all for that message.
Yeah, all reasons I give this a 10.
Yeah, that's okay. You know what? I'm tearing my shit down. It's a 10. It's a 10.
Excellent.
Yeah, it's a 10.
Excellent. Well, I guess next is Guardians of the Galaxy, but it's definitely, I don't even know when you're gonna hear this episode, people, but yeah, that's what we're gonna record next, I
Yep.
assume. All right. Well, thank you very much for listening. This has been Spoiled Rotten. We are on the That Shelf Podcast Network with other great shows like Changing Reels, Composers, Bad Game Movies, Black Hole Films, just a bunch of great shows. So please head on over to thatshelf.com. You'll find those shows. You'll find our show. If you want older episodes of our show, go to tdfeverything.com/spoiledrotten. Our email is spoiledpodcast@gmail.com. Our Twitter is @tdfspoiled. So please contact us there if you have any answers for questions that we asked here but didn't have answers to, or if you just wanted to say hi or be mad at us. Either
Or
way,
share your rating.
yeah,
what
yeah,
you think
go
this
for
is.
it
You know?
on those things. And we are on Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, iHeartRadio, Radio Public, Spotify, Stitcher, a whole bunch of places. If we're not where you get your podcasts, again, use those things to contact us, our email or our Twitter, and we'll be there. But in the meantime, if we are where you are, rate, review, subscribe, and share with your friends. Thank you.
Cheers.
Bye-bye.
This has been a TDF Everything production, brah.